Hello, welcome back to Casters of the Cards. I'm Dane, and we have Austin here with me, and we're going to talk about 18 cards that we're looking at using from Tarkir Dragonstorm.
Yeah,
And let's just go ahead and get into it, Austin.
yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a pretty promising set, so let's start talking about these. Okay.
First off, we got the obvious, exciting. I think it might have been the first preview for the set. Um, it was Mox Jasper, and I think it is exactly what you think of on the tin. It is a 0 mana, as most, or I think all the Moxes are. And it'll add you any color if you control only if you control a dragon. So it won't help you cast your dragon if you're playing a dragon commander, but once it's out, or if you're playing smaller dragons, then you get a little free mana rock. I think it isn't necessarily an auto include in every dragon deck. If you're only playing like a Voltron dragon, you might not use it, but otherwise, I think it fits in a lot of dragon decks like Nax. I think Nax specifically with the background Acolyte of Bahamut, um, already kind of feels the play pattern with Nax is that's the first dragon you play, and then you start playing your bigger dragons. So the Mox giving you an extra mana after you play Nax, essentially making a dragon you play every turn costs 4 less, is pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good card. I think it's going to be pretty pricey just because it's a Mox and it's free.
I don't
Um,
actually think it'll be that pricey. I forget which Mox, but I
oh,
think I think one of the Moxes is around $1.
I
Um,
still seems pretty good for dragons. It does let you get all your colors in.
would you necessarily put it in every dragon deck? I know you have a couple of dragon decks. Um,
If it becomes affordable, I think it might be an auto include. I like
but
free
like I
spells
said,
and
it doesn't do anything until you have a dragon. So it's really like if you're only really playing. I mean, like in Miram, for example, your Miram deck doesn't it runs a lot of other dragons, right?
yeah, I think there's about 30 dragons in their total.
No, how often are you playing? Do you play dragon before you cast Miram, and then you play this, and it helps cast Miram, or is Mox Jasper just helping you
Yeah,
copy things?
no, I think what you said to begin with, you play a couple of other dragons. Like not all the dragons in there are going to come out after Miram. Obviously, they're better because you get to copy them, but I still think that you play a dragon and then this. I think it just
Oh,
lets you get extra stuff out too. Like you were saying in Nax, you're going to get to cost your first dragon down pretty heavily.
all right. Well, that's our first card. The next one's yours, Austin.
Yep, the next one's just a Dragonstorm Globe. So it's a 3 mana rock, which, I mean, there's a bunch of 3 mana rocks out there, so what makes this one any special? And it's that each dragon you control enters with an additional 1/1 counter on it. And it also adds 1 mana of any color, as any good mana rock should. Um, I've got this. I'm kind of eyeballing this for a couple of decks, including Miram and the Ur Dragon. Um, Miram is really good just because all of your dragons are going to come in with an extra counter, just going to help you curve out some damage. And the Ur Dragon, I really like this on the Ur Dragon because you need 21 commander damage, and this is going to put that counter on the Ur Dragon. So if you two shot somebody, they're going to be knocked out of the game versus trying to get that last ping of damage. So I think that that is going to help curve out really nicely for that. And this is a I think I already have a 3 mana rock. I think I can take out of there. I can't remember which one it is exactly, but I may even move like a talisman up from 2 mana to 3 mana just to help out. You think you agree with that on there for the commander damage?
Yeah, no, it definitely works out nicely for the commander damage. It is a little bit of a double up of I forget the exact name, but I
Oh,
know
the green the
one of the
green
Dungeons
dragon orb.
Dragons dragon orbs
Yeah.
is whenever you cast a dragon with the mana. It's also a 3 mana artifact, but there's one for every color. And the green one
Oh,
is whenever you cast a dragon using that green mana, it gets a 1/1 counter and hexproof, but it's only once per turn. And while that gives hexproof, this is gonna work like you said with Miram. It's gonna help with all those tokens, make them bigger.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So next card coming up is gonna be
Deceptive Frostkite. Now this is kind of a good card in any blue deck. Now, granted, it's only gonna copy. Well, I take it back. I forget it only copies things with power 4 or greater. So I keep in my mind, I keep thinking it's better than it is, but that's still a really good effect. There's a lot of commanders with power 4 or greater, or that will get up to that power level. Why I don't know. I'm talking myself out of wanting to use this card.
Oh, don't do that because you're
help
interested
help
in
me
putting
out
it
here,
in.
Austin.
Yeah.
Because
No, I'll help you here. See, you just don't. You're not putting it in cards like Miram. Like we just talked about. It is power 4 or greater. Usually that's going to be one of your dragons, right? I mean,
right.
but I mean, you can explain this away. Reading this, like, you get to double copy.
Right. No, in Miram, it's obvious include. You get to copy. Now it has to be something you control, but you play a different dragon with Miram. You copy it with Deceptive Frostkite. The Mirror makes a copy of the Frostkite, which is an additional copy of your best dragon. So now you have 3 of your best dragon.
Yeah, and then I personally am thinking about putting this in Arumi because it has such a low mana value. To encore it out of the grave is going to be really easy, and then you've got 3 deceptive frostkites copying maybe a massacre worm you hardcast, and then
yeah,
all those massacre worms are gonna you're gonna have 1 copy per opponent attacking. So then you don't have to play the massacre worm out of your grave and encore. You can kind of have it stick on the field, and then this will act as
I
the
guess
copy.
this works. This is good in any deck that has blue that's making big creatures, because as a reminder, it enters as the copy. Therefore, it will enter the battlefield effects, so it's almost
for sure.
as well.
4 solemn simulacrums, although it doesn't have power 2 or greater. So unless you put some counters on your solemn.
Yes, because I think Solemn Simulacrum is as good as it gets.
Probably. Anyways, I think it's still a pretty good card though. So
No, definitely.
Moving on from there, we've got the Herd Heirloom, and we already got. Let's go ahead and get the other.
Ooh,
cards.
little card sneaking. Oops, went away. Uh-oh.
It's okay. We'll just talk about Baru first. So, this is a card I picked. It's a 2-mana rock, and it makes any color, but it only uses for creatures, which is bad. But you can give a creature with power 4 or greater again that cares about that trample, and if it deals damage to somebody, draw a card. So the idea is you use this in Baru on your worms, and they're 4 or greater almost guaranteed, especially with his anthem. And whenever they deal trample damage, which you're going to be tripling up on trample, the worm has it, he has it, this gives it, you'll just get to draw a card. But it's pretty good. And then the other commander I'm thinking about putting this in for myself is going to be Gishath, because I have a lot of dinos in Gishath, so it doesn't actually matter that this only goes towards creatures. And obviously giving any of the dinos trample and deal damage to draw a card is going to be pretty good. So I don't think we're going to have a lot of issues with that. What do you think about this?
My thoughts are while it's a little restrictive on what you can use the mana for, like if you had a commander with for example, I have a Mael deck that has an activated ability to get me 5 power or above creatures, so I wouldn't be able to use this for that ability, but the second half is almost good enough as a draw a card once a turn. Like I would use this over Beast's Whisper in most of the desk. Or is Beast Whisper
the artifact? Maybe you're thinking about the Lifecrafter's Bestiary, maybe.
Lifecrafter's Bestiary. Thank you.
Yeah.
I would use this over that in a lot of decks because draw 1 a turn is better. in a lot of cases than having to spend a green to draw every time you cast a card. And then also,
I think I
you're
agree
going to
with
be able
that.
to use the mana most of the time. So,
Well,
it's.
the Gifts Trample does seem redundant on stuff, but every once in a while you've got that big creature, and it has everything but trample, and it will then get it, and you'll draw your card.
Oh, yeah. I think it's a pretty solid choice for any green Creatures Matters deck.
Okay, next card up is the Disruptive Stormbrood. This is one of yours.
This is a 5-mana dragon, although he barely looks like a dragon.
Well,
Looks like the
is
Apple
this the
Pokemon a little bit.
is this the baby art? I don't know if you saw that they're doing a baby art and a
I did
non-baby
see they're
art.
doing baby art. This just looks like Flapple to me now that I'm thinking about it.
It does look like Flapple, doesn't it?
So 5-mana flying dragon. When it enters the battlefield, destroy up to one artifact or enchantment. 3/3. The one of the interesting mechanics from this set is Omen. It's I think all the omens I've seen have been sorcery speed, but maybe they're not.
I think they are, since they shuffle themselves back.
So Omen is a new sorcery type, or might also be instant, but it's a new type that, as you said, they all seem to shuffle back into its owner's library. So I think this works pretty good in a deck like my Marin deck. And Marin is a reanimator deck, and so I think in a deck where you're trying to mill things into your graveyard, or it's just going to happen naturally, you can recur the Disruptive Stormbrood and destroy something. Or if you happen to draw it, you could use it as removal. It goes back into your deck for it to be milled into your graveyard later. So I think it could work in a deck like that. I like the design of Omen, and while I'm not jumping on using too many of them just yet, I think it's a fun mechanic.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's kind of it's here and there. If it were instant, I think it'd be a little strong. If somebody wheeled you, you could just go ahead and omen them out, and then they're not actually going to get wheeled away because you're going to throw them back. So then you have your chance to draw it again. But I think we're just going to have to kind of see. There's clearly some commanders that it works better with. So next up now we've got the Quarcy Revenant, and I am excited about this going in just right away. Let's just get out there. This is going in the Indominus Rex deck. Flying Death Touch lifelink counters, yes. Renew, exile it, place all of those counters on a creature from the grave at sorcery speed, but you still get to place 3 more counters. This is awesome. Just an auto
For
include
3 mana is
for three
pretty.
mana, and this in my Indominus Rex deck, a lot of the creatures in there, if they have three keywords like that, they're not always the greatest creature. Black isn't that bad, but 3 mana is pretty good for a flying Death Touch lifelinker. Like it'll still be good as a creature by itself, and because if I play it as a creature by itself and it dies, I won't get to draw the cards if I use that renew ability. But if I don't have any of those counters on the Indominus Rex, I might just want them on there because he might also want Flying Death Touch lifelink. Like, why wouldn't I
Yeah.
just go ahead and pay 3 mana for that? Because that seems pretty easy. Like, it's not very costly to do that either. So I'm definitely excited about that. I'm not sure how many other decks this fits into.
Or even in the long game with an Indominus Rex, you definitely like say that on your very first um, cast of Indominus Rex, you discard this away. Indominus Rex gets destroyed. You cast it again, and you still get an opportunity to get those counters after the fact, even though you've already willed
Yeah.
away Quarcy. So
And this is another example of the sorcery speed being slow too, because I could, in response to his ETB, if this were instant speed, I could renew, throw the counters on there, and then draw a card for those counters too. But since it's sorcery speed, I'm just gonna have to rely on getting the flying Death Touch lifelink, which is still really good. I still don't think that's it's also a vampire. Maybe like seeing this in Edgar Markov. I mean, giving does he already have?
He has Death Touch on, and maybe he might have Death Touch and Langling. I don't
Even
play.
then, like
But giving it flying is still pretty solid.
Or any vampire that's just annoying. Maybe you have like
Sure.
as Blood Artist a vampire, or am I mistaken?
Blood Artist is definitely a vampire.
Yeah, so just give your Blood Artist flying Death Touch lifelink just to make sure you're getting the maximum value out of it. But
yeah, even then, it's another way of looking at it is 3 mana, make a creature able to just block and kill most things, which is pretty good for 3 mana.
Having this or those counters, people are definitely going to look twice whenever they send something in the air at you if they want to keep it or not, because it's going away. So
yeah.
Anyways, next up we've got. What is this?
It's a new commander dragon. It's Irani of the Unwritten. It's 4 green, blue, red. It's a spirit dragon. Like Ugin, but it's not.
All 5 of the new commander cards are spirit dragons as well.
Yeah.
I think they all died in the chasm with Ugin. They all revived in there. Maybe we'll get 5 more Tomb of the Spirit Dragon lands, 1 for every color.
They haven't showed them off yet. But it's a flying trample. Whenever it enters or attacks, look at the top 8 of your library. You may put a dragon creature from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest at the bottom of your library.
Oh, that's so good for that Omen ability that you get to put the dragons from your hand back on top of your deck in the top 8, maybe.
No, they're all on bottom in random order. I guess I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Well, you play a Omen dragon and shuffles it back into the deck whenever you Evolving Wilds or something.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, you get to the other dragons, not this one.
Yeah, because you're right. All of the Omen cards are on dragon spells, so that makes sense.
So what deck are you gonna put this in though?
I'm gonna put it in.
Okay. So this is gonna be a completely new commander for you then.
And that's kind of a joke, but honestly speaking, I don't know for 7 mana that this would go in much of the other dragon commander decks.
I don't think.
I think you might put this in Miram, but honestly,
I think I like it in Miram because it pulls extra. I like it in Miram only because you won't get a copy because it'll be legendary, but you will get to be able to put another dragon out as well whenever. Actually, you'll get a copy that's legendary that dies immediately, and also ETBs getting you another dragon from the top 8 that might not be legendary. And then I don't know. I know what you were saying about. I don't like this because it doesn't do the damage. It doesn't make the dragons do the damage. They're not tapped and attacking. It doesn't make them tapped
and attacking, but I'm trying to figure out how strong that would be. That might be a little strong. I think
Kalia the Vast.
Like Kalia or I'm blanking, but I know that the
other Kalia,
the human tribal, is also like a CEDH.
Oh,
and
yes,
I'm blanking on her name. Wynonna, and other free creatures off the top of your deck cards just can be very good commanders, and so I wonder if this was tapped in attacking that it might be too strong.
It's possible.
I also
for 8 mana though, or for 7 mana.
Or what if it had haste? Would that be too strong?
I actually think no. I think if it had haste, it'd be perfect because for 7 mana you get 2 other dragons. Maybe. Obviously, you're building your deck where you're more than likely to get these dragons. However, I think for 7 mana, maybe the benefit is you guarantee to get 2 dragons. Maybe. Again, you build the deck so you have to get them. But then you're good if your commander gets removed, and then it's 9 mana to recast.
But that really
and there might be some combos with this that I think a lot of copy spells, if you just copy this a whole bunch, they're going to love that because then you do get to put a lot of dragons out on the field. And then there's a lot of stuff that gives your creatures haste in these colors, so that might actually not be that big of a deal.
Yeah, Dragon Tempest is obvious.
Even a Rhythm of the Wild in this, because if you give this haste, it enters, you get a dragon, that one will get haste. Then this goes to attack, and then instead of giving that new dragon haste, you just give it a 1/1 counter, so then you're good. And
Yeah.
that's, I mean, you're gonna set stuff up like that way before you play this at 7 mana, but it still looks pretty interesting. It's gonna be a. I wonder how many more Omen cards we'll get. Maybe you'll just be able to do 30 dragons with Omen and have an Omen tribal deck.
I got a feeling we're gonna get like 10 omens, but maybe I'll be wrong.
You never know. Well, the next card we're looking up at is going to be Windcrag Siege. And this is a Boros enchantment. This is one of the new sieges, and you choose Mardu or Jeskai. Choosing a Mardu is going to be if a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. And Jeskai is going to give you some creatures to attack with. On your upkeep, you're going to make a 1/1 red goblin creature token, and then it gains lifelink and haste until the end of the turn. I think it would have been cool if that token had lifelink and haste printed on it, but until the end of the turn, it's not too bad either. And I'm thinking about putting these in my combat focused, kind of go wide and then protect myself decks. Queen Marchesa and Marisi. A lot of those decks, a lot of cards in those decks, I should say, they have a lot of attacking triggers. And I know I didn't present any here, but one of the ones to think about is the curses, because it says if a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, it triggers twice. So putting curses on somebody and then attacking them
That said, I do.
cause them to trigger twice.
Am I not mistaken? I thought the curses were mostly when deals combat damage.
A lot of them are just whenever this player gets attacked.
Is attacked.
Oh,
okay.
I thought it's whenever. I might double check that as well.
There might be a mix of both. I have to double check. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, anytime you're doubling combat triggers is a clear win. Especially in Marchesa.
Yeah, and I know there's a couple of other cards in Marchesa. So one of the ones that is an attack is going to be Curse of Opulence. That isn't on an attack trigger.
It is on attack. Okay, and that's fantastic.
The curses. Yeah, and Curse of the Forsaken is also. They gain, or yeah, when a creature attacks enchanted player, its controller gains life. So I know that's not huge, but that's pretty okay. And there's a couple of other ones in here that are like that.
No, I really like using Curse of Opulence before you play this, and then now you get to go attack that player you played the curse on and make 2 treasures. So it's pretty good.
Curse of Bounty is also pretty good because when enchanted players attacked, untap all non-land permanents you control. Each opponent attacking that player untaps all non-land permanents they control as well. I think you can stack the trigger where you can untap all your non-land permanents twice. So if you have any kind of mana dorks that you want to float some mana on, or if you have any kind of attacks you want to perform, or any kind of extra tap abilities that you have, I think that's going to let you stack those in the favor of however you kind of want to do that.
Yeah.
The Curse of Disturbance is also going to make us a zombie, so like you can make 2 zombies, which isn't huge, but the thing to think about is it's not just on your turn, and it's not just a creature you control. If you curse somebody and they attack that player with Curse of Opulence and everybody does that, everyone is going to have a double trigger. So everyone is going to trigger it.
You're just going to need to build a curse deck, aren't you?
Maybe I just put this in there and then all the curses trigger like 5 times. So then whenever you attack somebody, you make like 5 treasures. And it's like, you know what? Why would I attack Austin? I could make 5 treasures, even though Austin's also making 5 treasures. Don't tell them that. That's our little secret. But anyways, combat focus decks for sure. I'm kind of looking into that. I'm sure there's a nice Boros deck that whenever you attack, maybe you get extra combats, maybe you get 2 extra combats or something. Like, dethrone trigger, that dethrone trigger on the Scourge of the Throne. I think that's going to trigger twice if I'm not mistaken. And the dethrone will see the same person twice, so then you'll get to do that twice.
I will say the 1 goblin a turn part seems pretty weak.
I agree. Also, it's just a lifelink haste goblin. so that's not maybe a double strike lifelink
Not
would
not
have been better.
maybe not for commander. I bet maybe there could be something in standard that wants that. I don't know.
Oh, I will definitely be saying this in standard. And what else do we have up next? We have you
It's
you put the wrong
Ugin.
Ugin on here. This isn't the old Ugin.
Nope, this is the newer, different Ugin. Ugin, Eye of the Storms, 7 mana. Whenever you cast this, exile up to one target permanent that's one or more colors. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, exile one target permanent that's one or more colors. So, before we've even activated Ugin, for 7 mana, we can exile a colored permanent, and in any color deck, you're just gonna do that repeatedly whenever you play a Mana Rock or a Wayfarer's Bauble or
Or a morph, and you get
or
you get the 3 mana you need for a morph off of Ugin, and then every morph you play exiles a colored permanent, which is amazing.
right. So when I was looking at this, I thought of it two ways. At its worst, it is as good as a Meteor Golem that draws you a card, or it is a 7 mana Thrawn Dynamo that removes a creature.
Sure, I can see that.
Either way,
I like
I think
thinking of it as
those are both good. And what I'm saying is, at its worst, I would probably still take both of those.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it can also, do whichever one you need in the moment. And in a colorless deck, or even an artifact deck, if you have a deck that's got 30 colorless artifacts, Ugin's gonna do a lot of removal. And if you could keep it alive, you can go get every single colorless non-land card, and you may cast them for free.
And I will point out the fact that his ultimate is that makes that not work at all, other than for like artifacts and Animar. Um, if this were budget, which we know it's probably never going to be based on the other Ugin, I would definitely throw this in my Animar morph deck because at some point my morphs are free and they're drawing me a card when they come into the battlefield, and I'm playing out like a third of my deck. So then exiling that many colored cards as well is going to be amazing.
Mm.
And the problem is going to be that I can just never use that Ugin ultimate. So he's going to be really, for probably a $30 card, I'm going to be cutting the what makes him mostly a $30 card, which is the put all those cards out for free. And you're probably going to get him up to 11 with some proliferate pretty quickly. I mean,
Yeah,
just after 2 cycles, you're at 11 because you plus 2 twice.
right.
And that's if you're able to cast this Ugin early or cheat him out or anything, or double his maybe if you Teferi him and he can do this during everybody's turn, then that's going to be very nasty because you're going to get to do that on the last player before you's turn. You'll get to throw all that stuff out, and then it'll be your turn again since you got to activate your things during everyone's turn. I do think it's going to be another great Ugin card. It's looking pretty interesting. The old Ugin was a really good commander staple all the way until now that they've printed this other Ugin. I don't really see it as a replacement, but I see both of them in the same deck almost all the time. If you have the other Ugin, I don't really see a reason you wouldn't run this one as well. Or
Well,
would it be a hard replace for you?
I think in a lot of cases, it depends on what your other 7 drops are. If you don't have any other
Sure,
7
maybe
drops,
you
then
don't want
yeah,
to.
you probably run. But if you don't, but if the other Ugin was your only 7 drop, maybe you have 2. Your 6 drop is the Ugin that makes your colorless spells cost 2 less, and things are just gonna work really smoothly for you.
Yeah, I still think it's pretty good.
In a colorless deck, if you got no budget, or if these things somehow get reprinted enough, you just run every Ugin, and I don't, every
Yeah,
Eldrazi
as soon as
commander ever wants all the Ugins, and this one maybe more so than ever, since in a colorless deck, your removal options are a little limited. Even in the new Wooburg colorless decks like Udalek, who you have access to other colors, um, with all your devoid Eldrazi's being able to just, in addition to casting out the void Eldrazi, remove the biggest colored threat. is pretty.
Yeah, anybody's other card, because there's not, unless you're sitting at the 4 Kozilek, the Council of the Eldrazi pod. In that case, you're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah. What else we got here?
We have Frostcliff Siege, and this is another card that I picked out. It's another one of those sieges. I really like these. This one is Jeskai or Tamir. The Jeskai is when one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. So note that it's not per creature and it's not per player or instance. It's just going to be that one big time you draw one big card. But you can also choose creatures you control get +1/+0, and have trample and haste. And there's a couple of decks I was thinking about putting this in that might seem a little nasty, giving all those creatures +1/+0, trample and haste, and that's going to be some snakes and some demons. I think anything that you're casting in Be'lakor that is Warstorm Surging, that then also has trample, haste, and a +1 extra damage is going to be gross. And I think all of the snakes that you're drawing to and playing are gonna come out and have haste and trample and +1/+0. And you, once you get to enough snakes, there is what's the definitive number? Give me the number, Dane. What's the definitive number that you see of 2/1 trample haste snakes that you then think, uh-oh, that's a lot of snakes? What's the number?
You put me on the. I don't know what you want me to say.
How many snakes?
Realistically speaking, you windfall. You draw 7 cards. You have 7 snakes. 7 times 2 is 14. That's a lot.
I don't know. You might be underestimating the number of snakes. So 14 is a lot. Still, in the Zyra deck, this is just going to work because all your snakes that you make immediately, say you impact Tremors or Warstorm Surge them, they're also going to deal damage. Then they're all going to be attacking. Trample doesn't matter on those, more on the demon side or any other kind of deck that's big creatures. But and in a pinch, if you really need to draw some extra cards, you can set that up. You can just make an extra snake. You're not making a whole bunch of extra snakes because it's just the one big card that you're drawing. But 3 mana, draw a card whenever you deal damage to somebody. In decks that have flying or maybe trample already, that's pretty good, I think.
I concur.
Well, I concur that the next card is a pretty powerful card.
Yeah, extremely.
Slayer is pretty powerful. Talking about tokens.
Yeah, it's 5 mana, white planeswalker. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, create twice that many.
Isn't that nifty?
And then you can uptick her to create 1, triggering her own ability to make it additional. 1/1 white soldier. You could pay 0 to put a +1/+1 counter on every creature you control, and they have flying until the end of your next turn. Which is very strong anthem effect.
Until the end of your next turn is nasty, because you just have all the... I really hope you're also then giving all your cards vigilance so that they can stay up. They can go in the air, they can be vigilant and flying, stay up, and then
a lot of flexibility, and then the finale, or I guess it's not really finale, but -3. Which she can do as soon as you cast her is just destroy target creature an opponent controls with mana value 3 or greater.
Which is awesome. You just the cherry on top of this cake that is a one-woman army. One-woman storm, if you will.
Mm-hmm. And goes without saying, this goes in any strong token matters deck. Marnius Calgar is one of my favorites. Whenever you make a token, you draw a card. And now it's not going to draw you 2 cards whenever Elspeth triggers, because it's an replacement. If you would make 1, you make double. However, it's just a lot of nice synergy. Whenever she enters, she could draw you a card right away, or make all of the tokens you already have flying. Or it's just removal. I mean,
those tokens have vigilance, so it matters. his Astartes warriors already have vigilance, so that's
That's
awesome.
true.
Just like I
A
was
lot of
saying,
the tokens in that deck
the
do have
prophecy's
vigilance.
fulfilled.
So yeah, I don't think there's a lot to say about Elspeth. It's maybe too good. It goes in a lot of decks.
It's
So
just missing the bottom text underneath the ultimate, which is this card can be your commander, and then we could be talking about a real powerhouse.
yeah.
Well, next up we have a less powerful card. It's also white, and it's Duty Beyond Death, and your duty never ends. There's that call of duty for you. Um, but for the creature that you sacrifice in addition to playing this spell, it does end. But when you do that, creatures you control gain indestructible, and it's until the end of your turn, and you put a counter on every creature you control. So you, by paying 2 mana and sacking a creature, you get to blanket your entire field with counters, and they all gain indestructible. We have a couple of cards that are like this already, um, and those are going to just be improved. You're going to get to run 2 or 3 effects like this now in decks like Zavaz or other counter matter decks like Rayhan and Yoshimaru. Um, Being able to sacrifice a creature with modular and give indestructible to all my other creatures and put a counter on every other creature, and then all the modular counters are going to go somewhere as well. Or just in the Legends deck where there's so many big Legend cards that you're going to want to blanket counters onto and give them indestructible. And most of the time, most of those Legends make you a couple of extra zombies or spirits that you can sacrifice. So I think it's a pretty good. I can even see this being good in your Marnius deck that we just talked about too.
exactly. Yeah, I was about to say
Yeah,
even without the counters matter, being able to protect your field at the cost of uh, a 1/1 soldier is pretty strong, and then also they're bigger. So unless you're dealing with the sacrifice board wipe, this is a pretty good response.
yeah, I think it's just gonna see its way into a lot of decks, all in all, and I bet it finds its way into more decks than cards that care about counters for sure. Next up, we've got another Marnius Calgar deck.
Yep,
Card
can't
include.
you there. It's another tokens matter deck or tokens matter card. It's Avenger of the Fallen. 2 and a black. Death Touch 2/4. It has Mobilize, a new mechanic, I believe. Mobilize X, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard, and that what Mobilize does is whenever this creature attacks, create X tapped and attacking 1/1 red warrior tokens. Sacrifice them, they're going to get the next end step. So you got 5 creatures in your grave. You're mobilizing 5. It's in the Marnius deck. You're going to draw a card. Every turn that you do that, and if you have any other token anthems on the field or just anthems in general, you're doing a pretty big attack on a 3 mana Death Touch that people probably don't want to block anyways. But they're probably gonna block it to keep you from making those creatures every single turn, because it doesn't require you to sacrifice, or it doesn't require you to exile the cards from your graveyard. You just every turn make a token for each card in your graveyard. So unless somebody's exiling your grave, if you've got 5 cards, then 6, then 7, every time you get to swing out with this, you are making more tokens. So
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good token generator, and especially with the Death Touch and a 2/4, that's also gonna be kind of interesting. Um,
mm-hmm.
I mean, you do want it to attack, so it's probably going to be tapped down, but maybe if you're giving it vigilance, then that's going to make it extra spicy. So, well, next up we've got.
Spin.
We got a spin. We got Host of Hereafter. This is a Golgari creature. It enters with 2 counters on it. It doesn't do anything else. And why do we want that? Well, we want it in our counters deck because we want creatures that come with counters. And I think that's all that it does. I don't know if I'm missing something. I don't know if there's like anything extra you want to add on it, Dane. I just think this is a good 4/4 for 4. I don't really think it does a lot after that.
No, I think it does more than you're thinking. Whenever this creature or another creature you control dies, if it had counters, put its counters. It's
Oh, you're right.
maybe a
It
better
does
Ozil.
do that. Yeah.
It's a better Ozil.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna hold on to your counters for
All
the future.
all counters, including those nasty -1/-1 counters. So it kind of goes infinite with Hepatra because you're gonna put a counter on a snake and it's gonna die, and you're gonna put the counter on the host, and then you're gonna make a snake, and then you're gonna put the counter on the snake, and it's gonna keep going back and forth. Actually, does it go infinite? Am I reading this wrong? If you put a counter on a creature, make a snake. Whenever a creature dies, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna need 2 counters up, um,
Yeah.
which you get to do whenever Hepatra does the damage. So, still though, you're gonna go into this loop of making these snakes and placing these counters,
Yes.
because you get to put it on up to one other target creature you control. That's right, it does go infinite. It doesn't have to go on the host. You're able to move your
Yeah.
counters around however you please. So this is a really nasty goes infinite snakes. And because it enters with 2/1/1 counters, it's gonna be a little tricky. You'd have to get 3 -1/-1 counters on it to start storing those up, since they're gonna cancel out. But that's something to be interested. Like, that's something for the Hepatra players to be interested about as well, because that means if you blanket the field with -1/-1 counters, you get a little bit of grace on this card, so it might stick even. And then, of course, like we talked about before, Raihan and the Yoshimaru, you're already moving those counters all around, and this is going to make it way harder for your opponents to remove the counters off of your field without a board
Yeah.
wipe.
I
It's
think
almost going to be impossible.
just to be redundant, you're already running Ozolith if you can afford it in your budget. Here's Host of the Hereafter and an uncommon,
Yeah.
which will probably be cheaper than the Ozolith, and therefore you can put it in more decks.
Yeah, and the color restriction I don't think is that big, because I think most decks that are running counters are probably in black and green. And the few decks that are going to miss out on it, I mean, maybe you just swap over to Hepatra. Maybe you just swap decks. Well, I think we've only got a couple of more cards, and I think this next card is yours. So this is
Well,
kind of a no-brainer.
hard for every green player. So the way I wanted to frame this card is, for me, is Return to Nature is a 1 in a green instant speed. Destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, or exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. Heritage Reclamation is everything I just said, except if you choose to exile a card from a graveyard, you draw a card. So
They're really wanting to promote exiling cards from graveyards so badly that you now get to draw a card if you do it, because that's the worst effect.
That's a way to look at it. The way I look at it is this: there are so many green cards, in even red and white to some extent, that destroy artifacts or enchantments, that the exile a single card from a grave, while it's very nice to hose somebody's reanimation combo at instant speed,
Or their leveler at other Beamtown Bully deck.
sure, whatever the dangerous reanimation target is, it's always been nice to have that in your back pocket. But there is so many cards that do the other half of Return to Nature that I have not been using it as often these days. But only when I really need in order to hose a grave. Now this just makes it even better at what I was already using it for. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, and I like it too. It's an auto include for myself. I'm just going to be putting it and Return to Nature in almost all of my decks. I like having the extra answer to the graveyard on a card, and if I don't use it, there's always an enchantment artifact, and this is also lower mana than some of those other destroy artifact or enchantments with the extra ability to replace itself. I think just having this in Return to Nature is going to make your curve really low for removal.
Yep.
And I don't know if we have any decks that we favor this in. Oh, we do. You
not
do.
anything. I just put a green deck in here. It's not.
Sure.
Not. I mean,
You can
yeah.
conspire
Copy
it.
Heritage Reclamation. Draw a card off of it. Maybe draw two. Oh man,
That's pretty
it's
good.
pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. You know what else is cool? Hollow Merc Siege. You know, I just think I put most of the sieges on here. I think I'm only missing one.
There's 5, and you've put this is the third one.
This is the third one. Well, can you guess what I'm going to be doing with it? Yes. Yes, you can. It's another counters deck matter cards, and there's just so many counter decks matter decks that I own that are Hapatra or Raihan or Yoshimaru. See, if you choose Sultai, when a counter is put on a creature you control, draw a card. It's only going to trigger once a turn, but you're probably putting counters on your creatures during everybody's turn if you have a really strong counters deck. And the Abzan side is when you attack, put a counter on target attacking creature, and it gains menace. So that is going to be pretty decent because every legend card in Yoshimaru Raihan just getting a counter and menace, and I mean that's just another
Well,
way
it's
for you
still
to
only
throw
gonna be
counters
one a
out
turn
there.
because it's
Oh, it is.
just gonna be once per attack, but still a 1/1 counter
Sure,
and menace is pretty strong for a 2-mana enchantment.
sure, you're right. I do see that now. It's just a single one. Still though, the a 2-mana enchantment that lets you either put counters and menace or draw a card is like I think that's just pretty strong. I think all these sieges have really caught my eye. Another card you've put on here is going to be. That's it. There's no other cards. That's the last.
That's all we have about Dragonstorm. A lot of fun cards coming out. Um, you didn't see us jumping in order to talk about the cowboy set or the detective set because the designs were just not that compelling.
They were
I
saving
think
all the designs for this set. They they saved everything good for this set, and that's it. And then later this year we'll get SpongeBob.
and we gotta end the video now.
Hurry in the video before I talk about SpongeBob.